Welcome to another episode of Men and Marriage. We're in season number 3. This is episode number 2. Today, I have a special guest with us. This is actually my father, Mr. Charles Dixon. He's been married for 43 years, just as long as I've been married. Been living. He's newly retired, 3 years retired from General Motors. Welcome.
Well, thank you, sir. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad that you were able to come.
No problem.
That was a quick, short, high-level overview of who you are. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
No, you pretty much covered it. I'm just a simple guy.
Simple guy. Well, again, I know I appreciate you for being on. I know I'm in my 3rd season, and this is the first time that I've asked you to be on the podcast, so I definitely appreciate you for coming on.
No problem. Ain't nothing like I had nothing else to do.
That's what I got to look forward to when I'm retired.
That's right.
Good. So again, the way this platform is going to work is that I will ask 3 questions, as I ask the same 3 questions to all of the guests for this season. After we get done answering the questions or talking through those 3 questions, then I'll open it up for us to have an open dialogue. So you can ask me questions, or we can just talk about anything, and then that's pretty much it.
Okay.
So again, the reason for this podcast is a space for men to talk about marriage. And after I had this conversation with you before as well, is that when I first got engaged, you was like, "Are you sure?"
Yeah.
Marriage is hard work.
It is a job.
But you didn't tell me what the hard work was. You wanted me to find out for myself. So that's this platform
Exactly.
to talk about and to help other people to go through what men go through. The ups and the downs, the good and the bad, but also just to keep having a conversation with men, so that way we can keep sharpening ourselves and learning from each other, so that way we can keep this marriage thing going.
I know that's right, because I really don't think it's a formula.
No.
For marriage.
Mm-hmm.
You pretty much got to learn on your own as you go.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't have no input for you when you told me you was getting engaged to get married.
But I understand what you're saying, but I do believe that there is some input that you can give guidance to say, hey, these are some questions that I think that you should ask before getting married, so that way you won't have a surprise one day when you're in the marriage.
Well, I think there's always going to be a surprise, no matter if you articulate what you need to find out before you do jump into the pot.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Hey, there's always going to be something that comes up that you was unexpected.
That's right. You got to touch the fire to see if it's hot.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. So what we going to do now is we're just going to jump into these questions then. How about that?
I'll go right ahead.
All right. So question number 1 is, what legacy do you want to leave your children? Or let me say, I'm sorry to rephrase that. What legacy did you and mom, your wife, want to leave?
For who?
No, for you. For what legacy did you and her want to leave? As you became married, what legacy did you want to leave?
And when you say legacy, I looked at the definition of legacy, and it said could be money, could be property, something of value. Something of value for me is nothing material.
Okay.
To me, is leaving a part of myself here for my family and for my children.
Okay.
Being a good father, showing a good example, and especially showing a good example for my grandkids, because whether you know it or not, kids look at every move you do.
Oh, absolutely.
So I try to be as good of a person as I can be. Whether that works out or not, I don't know, because I ain't on the outside looking in. I can only do me.
So I guess to sum up that answer that you just gave, the legacy that you wanted to leave is basically for you to be a good human being. Basically,
a good role model, but people can look back and say, dad or granddad, he was a good person. He looked out and he did everything he could do to provide for us as a family, and I want the same thing for my family.
So you think that you've achieved that?
I don't know because I'm still here. I still feel like I got a lot more to do.
Oh, ain't nothing wrong with that. I think it's the same thing every time I wake up in the morning. I thank God for waking me up and saying up like He got something else for me to do.
Exactly. I'm sure that God didn't really keep me around this long for nothing because it's been a lot of things that happened in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I should be here, but it ain't up to me. It was. I give it all to God.
Mm-hmm. That's good. So I agree with you when you saying legacy can mean material things,
Right.
Money, cars, land, whatever.
Exactly.
But it can also definitely mean your name, which I'm a legacy of you because I'm your son.
Right.
And then for me to carry on the name in a positive light and just going on doing better than as children, we want to do better than our parents.
Right. I always want my kids to prosper and do better than me. That's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't be jealous of your child if he accomplished more than what you accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think.
No, absolutely.
I feel like my father wanted the same thing for me because he didn't want me to follow in his footsteps for as working for General Motors and being a laborer. He always told me, boy, go to school. Boy, don't be like me. Mm-hmm. He always told me that. Even saying that, I still wanted to be like him because he looked like he had it all. You know what I'm saying? I mean, health benefits, good family, always had money, nice cars. That's what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But it was hard for me to accomplish that because I tried to do it, but I had to leave. I went to the Army.
Mm-hmm.
So
you just took a different route.
I took a different route because I couldn't get into General Motors at that time. And it hurt me to my heart when I came back and all my friends was working at General Motors. So it is what it is.
Yeah, but everything happens for a reason. And had any one thing changed the way that you wanted it to do, we probably wouldn't be sitting here right now.
You're probably right.
That's my belief to my core is that everything happens for a reason.
Exactly.
The good and the bad, because we don't know what the plan is. We just live in this life.
Right. You can't make a plan without knowing the plan that happened before you, so to speak. Like the plan my father had, like I said, I wanted to follow in his footsteps because to me, he had it all, but he didn't want me to do that. But I've lived a good life, and I feel like General Motors gave me a good living.
Mm-hmm. And how many years were you there before retiring?
41 years, 41 and a half years.
41 and a half years. So that's a legacy in itself that you had worked that long with one company.
Exactly.
Nowadays, that's rare.
It is rare because not too many people can stay at one company that long.
No, not at all. For one reason or the other. And for the good and, so I think it's for the good and for the bad. And in good ways, people get different experiences at different companies, which is good.
Exactly.
And then every time somebody moves around, it may also increase your pay, which is good.
Right.
Bad also because some companies frown upon you jumping from job to job.
Right, because they look at your resume, they figure if you can't stick with one job, why should we hire you?
Exactly. So that's why I say it's a double-edged kind of sword, so to speak.
It is.
Yeah, but kudos to you for working there for such a long time and being able to provide.
It wasn't planned like that. It just happened.
But again, our plans are never really, saying that may not be our plans.
Right.
So you gotta always
God's plan is never our plan.
Exactly. That's what I was getting at right there. Is that you never know. Our plan may not be aligned with His plan,
right?
And He'll sometimes just move you back to get back in alignment to Him.
And just think if I had been a deadbeat dad, so to speak, that'd be part of my legacy as
absolutely
not being a good father or not taking care of the kids. I wouldn't like that because I was all about family. You know what I'm saying? Because it was sometimes me and your mother, we had rough times and stuff. You probably can attest to that because one time she left me for 9 months. I said, I got to straighten up, man, because she threatened to go to Las Vegas and take the kids. I was like, I'm not having that, man. I couldn't see no other man raising my children.
Right.
I was like, no. So I said, you can go, but the kids ain't going nowhere. But I had to straighten up because I was really, in the street, and I wanted to be a good example for my kids. What kind of example I'd be if I was a deadbeat dad.
Absolutely. No, and I appreciate you. And again, you was talking about, us waking up every day and thanking God because we got more work to do.
Exactly.
So while you're here, and I hope that, myself and the rest of your children and your family and friends are also giving you your flowers while you're here. And I hope that you know that you are appreciated and loved, and that everything that you've done has not been in vain.
Right.
So everything.
I feel a little something.
I hope you're not getting sentimental. Saying you want to cry. I got some tissue over here.
No, not yet. Not yet.
All right. So, do you have anything else you want to talk about on the first question, talking about legacy?
The legacy part. No, because I like to say, I like to live the legacy that was gave to me to give to my children. Because my father, he was a family man. Because just like me, it was only one check coming in, and my father worked his butt off. I did, because he had like 2-3 jobs at one time just to make ends meet. But he did his thing, and he never forsaken us for nothing. I don't know exactly how him and my mama got along, you know what I'm saying? But I just know he was always there, and I always had a 2-parent home, and that made the difference in me.
Oh, absolutely. It makes a difference in me as well. Like you said, if you had been absentee father, man, who knows what our lives would be like.
Exactly. And I was determined to be there for y'all.
Oh, absolutely. So that being said, for me, legacy trickling down through generations. So your example of being there and being a family man has also been instilled in me and wanting to be there for, my daughter,
right?
And having a 2-parent household and being there for every activity she has going on.
Exactly. And I can attest to that because you and Deron both, y'all really be there for y'all kids.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, y'all do.
So like you said, our children, we hope that they do better than what we are doing.
Right.
So for me, I hope that I have done, more than what you have done for me, and in some aspect, because of course I lived under your roof. So
well, you have.
So, but the things that I'm getting at is there are bits and pieces of that, the lessons that I've taken from you that I have applied to my life for the good or for the bad. So some of the things that I can take away is like being there in the household. But then I know that we was in a 1-check household.
Exactly.
So therefore there was a lot of times where you weren't there, that we wanted you there. So therefore I have created, or God has helped me create this space that I'm in to be able to be there for every activity or every doctor's appointment for for my daughter, because that was what I saw that was lacking, and what I'm saying, for me and you. But I understand.
Right, because just like my father told me when I was young, just like you when you was growing up, and I was working, he would always tell me, he said, "Boy," he said, "you might not understand now, but you'll understand later." And it took me a while till I was grown and had a family of my own. And I saw what he was saying, that he couldn't be there all the time when I needed him to be there because he was working. And I understand that now.
Yep, good stuff. So that's all I have on legacy as well.
Okay, I'm cool with it.
Good. All right, so we're going to move right along to question number 2. And that is, what have you learned about yourself since being married? So I know you've been married for 43 years, so you got to...
Right, and we actually been together for 48 years. Me and your mother was together 5 years before we actually got married.
Right. So what have you learned about yourself in these 48 years of being married?
Me and her been together so long, it's like she is another part of me, man, because sometimes we just sit and talk, and I would say something, or she was, before she even say something, I know what she gonna say. And that's kind of a scary thing, because she said, I was thinking the same thing. And I'd be like, that's kind of scary, you know what I'm saying? It's like what God said in the Bible, with the man and the woman and the rib thing, and becoming as one. After being together so long, eventually you do become as one. You might not see it in the early years, but later on in life, if you so happen to be, stay together and stay married, you will see it. It's like you walking in each other's shoes. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So for me, what I got that from that question, what have I learned about me since being married is, and I thought I said this in the previous podcast, is that this year I learned that I was jealous of her.
What you talking about? Jealous for us? What, her work?
Yeah. So because of her position and the things that she does in the community and the pageant and stuff like that. Yeah. So I was saying in the last podcast that God has allowed me to provide such a lifestyle that we have right now that allows her to do just do all of these different things outside of her not a normal 9-to-5 job. So with that comes a lot of different accolades and awards and things like that. So when she's getting those things over the last couple of years, what I've learned this year was that I have gotten jealous of her getting all of those things.
All those awards, all those accolades.
Because I myself was like, I was sitting here doing my job, but I wasn't being praised, I guess you can say, for the lack of better words.
Like she has.
Right. So that's where I say that's what I have learned about myself.
Do you think that made you less of a person?
It didn't make me less of a person, but it did put me in. Yeah, it made me check myself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I shouldn't be jealous of her.
No, and they say behind every good man is a good woman.
True.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I I like LaShawn. She seems to be a good person.
Yeah, she is.
I mean, she's very active. You know what I'm saying? And she likes to party, and she likes to throw parties.
It's coordinate.
That too.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So that's what I meant, or that's what I got from that question about what I learned about me since being married. So before being married, I didn't think I was a jealous type of person or anything like that. But since being married, that's one of the things that I've learned about me.
I think I've learned over the years how to be more considerate, more thinking about more like her feelings. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Not just, it ain't always about us. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to step back and let them do their thing, make them feel good about themselves. You know what I'm saying? And I can see that with you and LaShawn, because a lot of men wouldn't do what you do. You know what I'm saying? Like she taking the forefront with, like you say, with the celebration type stuff, and pageants and all that stuff, and coordinating different venues for different people. A lot of men wouldn't do that. A lot of men be like, you need to pay more attention to me. And I kind of admire you, because on your part, that makes you a non-selfish person.
Well, thank you.
It does.
So I didn't take it like that, me being non-selfish, but going back to me being, or finding out that I was jealous and me checking myself, realizing that it's not about me. It's not about me. I think that one thing that I've learned since being married also is that it's a service job.
It is.
It's a non-paying, financially service job.
It is. It's work, man.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely work.
It's work. But the thing about a lot of people, because you know for yourself, like I said, I've been married 43 years. How many people you can actually say been married that long?
Exactly.
They don't work. They give up, man.
It is.
They don't give up. I'm quite sure it was a lot of times my mother and father wanted to give up, but they didn't.
Right.
You got to put the work in.
You do have to put the work in.
If you love that person, you're gonna put the work in. No, good times, bad times, no matter what.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that going through marriage, you have to learn about yourself. Is like, okay, so where am I weak? Where she can help me at?
Yeah.
And what does she see in me that I don't see in myself already?
I could quote your grandfather. He said, because I asked him the same question, like this question you just asked. He's like, boy, it's a give and take thing. That's what he told me. I said, what you mean by that? You got to take it. You got to give it, and she's going to do the same thing. But you got to learn to live with it. After a certain point in your life, you gonna admire that person. You're going to respect that person for who they are, and you're going to admire whatever faults they have. You got to learn to live with it, just like she got to learn to live with you.
Absolutely. It's definitely a balance and a give and take.
Exactly. And most people ain't willing to stick around to find out what that balance and give and take thing is.
They move too fast. Yeah, they're giving up. And that's one of the things that I was talking about earlier. It was about when people first get married and they be like, okay, are you sure?
Right.
You know, marriage is hard work. So people are not telling each other what the hard work is.
Right.
So therefore, whenever they jump into marriage thinking that it's going to be, you know, happy ever after.
Be hunky-dory.
Yeah. And then they find out when they first had their first argument about whatever, they were like, well, deuces, because I ain't got to take this.
Right, right.
And that's not really the case. You know, that's that single mentality still.
Yeah, you got to stick and stay and see what it is. Because a lot of times you think the grass is green on the other side of the fence. It ain't.
No. You gotta ask the tough questions. Have the definitely communication about everything.
That's the bottom line right there, communication. Because if you ain't talking, ain't nothing working.
No. And one thing that I learned about myself also is about the expectations I had going into marriage was wrong. So in the last podcast I was talking about, I was cherry picking. I saw what you and Mama had, so I took some of that, what I liked,
right,
and tried to bring them to my marriage. I took something of, you know, some of our aunts and uncles who were married, some of my friends who were married, and I cherry picked everything that I liked and tried to apply it to my marriage, and that's not how marriage works.
No, I don't.
No.
You can't look at other people's thing because your thing gonna be totally different.
Absolutely, but that's something that you got to learn.
Right.
But people go into marriage thinking that they should do those things because they have these expectations, because I like what you got going on over here. I like what you got going on over there. And I try to apply it to our marriage, not thinking that we're two different people. We don't have the two same experiences. Right. I got to still learn some things about you, and we got to do our own thing.
And then the thing about that too, though, don't ever try to change that person.
No,
don't try to change that person.
And I think that's another thing that and I say we, men and women, get into engagement and being married not really knowing who that person is.
Right.
So whenever they do get into the marriage, and some things that you find out about that person that you didn't know before you got married, now it's a problem.
Right. But then some people go to counseling before they even get married.
And you should.
You think so?
I think so. Because there's a lot of things that other third party people can help pull out of each other that you may not be able to do yourself.
And then you might see something beforehand before you do jump the broom.
Absolutely.
Right.
But then also in that point, I don't think that God makes no mistakes. So going to counseling could do one or two things. It could absolutely let you know that y'all are supposed to be together. Or it could be, hey, I think that y'all are not supposed to be together.
Right. It can make or break you.
It can make or break you. But then if you're supposed to be together, then, God would definitely tell you that. If you're not supposed to, then God will tell you that also.
And then sometimes you could be together, but you can't see it, but God gonna work it out for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
it ain't meant to be easy.
I can't say it's definitely not that. But it's enjoyable.
It is.
It is definitely enjoyable.
It is.
There's definitely the more good times than bad times.
And I'm gonna quote your mama. She always said this: "She's my ride or die."
Ride or die.
She'll tell me that today.
She was watching Bonnie and Clyde.
I don't know what she was riding, but she said, "I'm your ride or die."
So, anything else that you want to talk about in regards to what you learned about yourself since being married?
You know what? To actually be honest with you, I didn't think I was gonna stay married long.
Really?
I didn't. The first few years, oh man, it was rough. It was rough. But seeing her and talking to her, and I know where she came from, a one-parent home, and then a broken home. Her mother was doing her thing, her father was doing her thing, and then it seemed like every time she wanted to spend time with her father, he would drop her off somewhere, and then he'd go do his thing. And I couldn't understand, because she told me no matter how bad we got, she wasn't going to never divorce me. I mean, she might have left me, but she wasn't going to never divorce me, because that was her bottom line. She was going to make this thing work. And when she told me that, man, I was like, I need to straighten up. So I had to straighten up and meet her halfway at least, and to see how far this thing was going to go. And right now, 43 years and going.
Yeah, so when y'all got married, in my eyes right now, I consider young, because y'all got married when y'all was in y'all early 20s.
Right, because I was 23. I think she was 20. She had just turned 20. Right.
So in knowing what I know now, being 43, being in your early 20s, that's early to get married.
It is.
Especially depending on what type of environment you coming from. it can be. It's just too early. Let me say that it's just too early.
But to be honest with you, we were supposed to get married earlier than that.
Really?
Yeah, because I was like 19, I think. My mom was still in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and I was on my way to Korea,
Mm-hmm.
and we were supposed to get married, but I didn't want to get married and then go overseas for a year and leave her here. You know what I'm saying? But she was willing. Your grandfather approved of it. He was supposed to have my back and say no, but he said yes. That tripped me out. But then at the last minute, I told her, we need to wait. You know what I'm saying? And the thing about that, too, though, everybody else was getting them Dear John letters in the Army and stuff.
Yeah.
Every day, I see guys boo-hooing. But she never did. She waited the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And that was unbelievable, to tell the truth.
But it's also, again, a different generation, a different time, different times.
Yeah.
So I think that the generation that you're coming from, who got married in their early 20s, saw that their parents sticking it out, or even came from broken homes, who didn't want that for themselves, wanted to stick it out. The generation that I'm in, is definitely like that. The generation that's after me, it's definitely not like that.
What you trying to say is like touch and go? I mean, any little thing they really just ain't willing to work it out. Just go each other, just go separate ways.
That is my opinion. I'll say yes.
I think that generation is soft.
I think that they and hence the reason for the podcast like this, to hope that people are watching this can say, hey, you should stick it out, and have communication, go to therapy, talk to somebody about all of these things.
Right, because if you really love that person and she really loves you, I mean, you'll do anything to work it out, whatever it takes.
But the thing is also, again, going back to this question, what have you learned about yourself since being married? And again, for me, it's about you're servicing that person. Mm-hmm. It's not about you no more.
No, it ain't.
Y'all are together as one.
Right.
It is about they come first.
Right. And you exactly right about that, because I had to think. I learned the hard way, because when we had you, I slowed down. Then we had Sean. I slowed down even more, because, man, I used to like to dress nice shoes, all that. I was like, man, I can't do this no more, because I got to buy diapers. I got to buy milk. It ain't about me no more. It's about my family.
Right.
And I had to, and that's what I had to do. I had to cut back on myself.
Yep.
To think about the other people.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And that thing for me, that ties back into the first question about your legacy, because you're now providing for other people,
right,
or servicing other people, which I think that is the number one goal for me, is to service my family.
Right, and the thing about that too, just like the kids, they didn't ask to be here.
No, they
didn't ask to be here, so you might as well stop playing and do what you need to do to provide for them. Mm-hmm. I hate a deadbeat dad. Mm-hmm. I do, man. Try to get out of child support. Them kids didn't ask to be here. Man, take care of your kids.
Right.
I tell anybody, man, stop crying. Take care of your kids.
Exactly.
Even if you and the woman can't get along, it ain't about you and her. It's about the kids.
Right. So, I definitely agree with everything that you're talking about right now. Anything else you want to?
No, I'm good.
You good?
I'm good.
I see you got your notes prepared over there.
I'm glancing every now and then, but most of this stuff is coming right off the top of my head.
And that's what I like. That's what the whole podcast is supposed to be about. Just a general, genuine conversation.
Right. 'Cause I didn't know how deep this was going to get. You know what I'm saying? So I thought I better write something down just in case I have a memory lapse or something.
No. So, with that being said, then we could just move right along into the question number 3, which can get a little deep, but I want to give some context about the third question as well.
Okay.
So the third question is really how have you helped your spouse get over trauma? So let me give you context before you answer the question, though. So the question stems from a TV show or a movie that I was watching where a couple had gotten married. They both, something happened in their past. Mm-hmm. They got married, and that whatever happened in their past came up in their marriage. Mm-hmm. But neither one of them was talking about it. Mm-hmm. So they ended up having a lot of friction in their marriage, but neither one of them knew exactly why. Mm-hmm. But so that's one way that you can approach the question, is some childhood trauma or something that happened in your past. Basically, I'll answer the question first. So for me, have I helped my spouse get over any type of trauma? Or has she helped me get over any type of trauma? And the answer is yes. So for me, the trauma that I would say that she's helped me get over is just basically being I don't know if it's really trauma or not, but it's like being isolated and basically coming from where we coming from. I always kept that being from Flint. I always kept that in me, inside of me, no matter where I went.
What you talking about, the Flint mentality?
Just the mentality.
Okay.
So being married to her opened me, like blossomed like a flower. So, but it was because of who she was, and she, was pulling all of that stuff out of me. But I had carried that around for, we didn't get married to 30 when I was 34. So I've been carrying that around for 34 years. And it took her, maybe 2 months to like really start pulling out of me. That's one of the reasons why, I was drawn to her, because she was pulling some stuff out of me that nobody else had ever pulled out of me. And it was just a good thing for me.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, you in a certain position or way in your life, and you say you had to steal that Flint mentality. What do you mean by the Flint mentality?
Well, I wouldn't say mentality.
Not
it was just
not hard or nothing like that.
Yeah, it was being hard, but always, it depends on where everybody comes from. But just...
You say you're a product of your environment.
Yeah, you are. And I was only there for, 12, 13 years.
Right.
But that, just looking over your back, making sure that you knew where you were, what was your surround, what was around your surroundings, hearing gunshots or, almost having stuff broken into and stuff like that.
Now if you know if you're going to make it to school and back home safely.
I never worried about that, honestly.
You didn't?
I didn't. I always knew that I was going to go to, make it, because we always had to walk to school.
Right, and it wasn't that far.
Yeah, it wasn't that far. But then, it was gangs and stuff that was prominent in the area.
Right.
But even when we moved to Tennessee, that still stuck with me. So I always, walk with my head down, wasn't getting too close to nobody.
Didn't you go to, what was it, Cameron or Johnson?
Both.
Yeah, and they was, both of them was down in the
both
hood.
Both was the same as Michigan. The gangs and everything, and hood. The projects was right next door.
Clancy.
So yeah, so that, and maybe that's why I liked them schools also, because they reminded me of home.
Yeah. The thing for me is, I think your mother, your Cynthia, she brought something out of me that I didn't know they had in me either, because no matter what I did, she always stuck behind me. For example, moving here. You know for yourself, I never would have came here. Never in my life. I had that application for, 2.5 years? She found it behind the dresser. She said, "What are you doing?" She said, "You got a job you can go to in Tennessee. You want to stay here in Flint?" Because I was really trying to get a job with the UPS. But after that panned out, I was nickel and diamond jobs all over the place. But she literally, because your mama's not a real outspoken woman. But in that particular instance, she was really outspoken. She did everything but put her foot up my butt. And it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. You probably wouldn't be here either. But to me, it was the best move I ever made. And it was because of her.
Right.
If I hadn't had her in my life at that time, ain't no telling where I'd be at. I probably wouldn't be here. I'd probably still be in Flint, not working for General Motors because all the plants closed. I'd probably be having some nickel-and job somewhere, doing 2 or 3 jobs at one time.
Right.
So I owe a lot to her for that, because ain't no way in the world I'd have came there. But like I said, it was the best move I ever made.
Yep.
I tell anybody that story, because up until the day I left, I didn't know I was coming. I got in that van and I boo-hooed all the way to Columbus, Ohio, because I didn't know I was going. But she said, "You going?" I was like, that's the first time she really even put her foot down. That's when I really knew what kind of woman I had.
Sometimes we need that every now and again.
We do.
We walking around with our chest poked out and everything. Whenever they speak up, hey, I need to shut up.
Right. And like I said, she's a soft-spoken woman. She don't say much. She don't never really get mad. She was pissed then because I hadn't put that application in.
No, I can understand it. And I've heard the story before, of course, and I can see her perspective of it. It wasn't nothing going on in Flint.
No, it wasn't.
You had 3 kids. You needed to do something.
I needed to do something. And you can attest to that, because y'all know y'all got tired of going to the sub office and the unemployment office with me all the time.
Well, I wouldn't say I was tired of it, but yeah, I remember going.
Yeah, because y'all used to beg me, Daddy, do we have to go? Can we stay home? I was like, no, I want y'all to see what I'm going through.
Mm-hmm. So we wouldn't have to. So we can remember when we get older, we wouldn't want to be in that position.
And then that was the whole thing for y'all to go with me. I didn't want y'all to. I wanted y'all to see what I was doing to keep food on the table, but at the same time, I was hoping that y'all didn't have to go down that same path.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say that was. Now that you said that, I'm thinking about the question that I just gave about trauma. I wouldn't say that is particular. That's not trauma for me. It's not. But it was a motivator.
It was trauma for me.
It was a motivator for me to say that I would never want to be put in this position. So I was going to do everything that I could do to make sure that I was not.
And that was my point of taking y'all to see what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
To see the lines I had to stay in, and people I had to beg just to keep the lights on. I was like, no, can we stay? No, you going with me.
So you saying that there was trauma for you?
Because I never knew.
How did you get over that? Let me ask you that question.
How did I get over it? I just kept working. I just kept going out there. Even at that time in Flint, the unemployment rate was at an all-time high. It was like 10.5% or something like that. And then people was talking about they can't get a job. I'm a proven fact. That was a lie. The unemployment rate was high, but the job thing, because I was getting jobs left and right. I might not have stayed because I kept quitting. At one point, your mama got to the point where she got fed up because when I would walk in that basement, come through the door, she would look at me. You quit again, didn't you? I was like, yeah. She said, okay. You quit another job, me and the kids gone. I said, well, you better pack now then.
You said that, but you didn't mean it.
No, I didn't mean it because that's why I had to step my game up. Yeah.
But again, so
that was like when she said that though, it was motivation for me.
Yeah, because you didn't want to see us gone.
No, exactly.
So again, so you saying that the being put into that position,
it was traumatizing.
It was traumatizing, but the way that you got over it was that you just kept grinding, kept hustling, trying to make sure that you
didn't never give up.
Yeah,
and I kept praying to God because I'm telling you right now, if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't have got through it. Because a lot of people ask me, you probably don't remember this. One time when you was in Mississippi, you called me. You was going through little rough times. I mean, money because every now and then you would ask me for a loan, but you always paid it right back.
Right.
So one particular time you asked me, you said, Daddy, how you do it? I said, do what? He said, how did you do what you did with 6 people on one check? You remember what I told you?
I don't.
I said, it wasn't me. It was God.
Yeah.
Because ain't no way in the world I could have did that by myself. No way.
Yeah, no. And 6 people with you and mama and 4 kids on one job, on one paycheck.
Yeah.
Which was paying good money, but not great money.
Well, okay. Yeah, I was paying good money when I was working. You know for yourself, I stayed laid off more when I worked because I was always at home.
When we were in Tennessee?
No, in Flint.
Oh yeah, I know that. But I'm saying like whenever we were all when it was 6 of us for sure.
Yeah.
It was one check coming in.
Exactly.
You was making good money.
Exactly.
It wasn't great money, but it was still providing for 6 individuals.
Exactly.
So yeah, so I'm saying that what I'm saying is that I agree with you saying that it was all God.
It was.
Because
there ain't no way in the world I could have done that.
Because I was, with a 2-person income in my household and was still, I won't say we wasn't struggling because we definitely wasn't struggling, but I couldn't fathom having to do all of that with just one check.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I know.
Check going 6 different ways.
Yeah. More than that, really. I mean, you paying for 6 things for, individual people, but you got all these bills to pay.
Yeah,
so, that's
still got to pay the bills and still put food on the table.
Yeah, man, God is good. He's splitting that money and multiplying everything.
That's what I said, just like he did with that fish. That's how I felt.
Yeah. Which is good. And I'm glad for it. And
But to touch back on this traumatization thing, that was rough. But the most traumatization thing that your mother helped me to get through with was when your sister passed away. Man, I was through. I couldn't function.
Yeah, I can.
And she, if it wasn't for her, she did with the things that she had to do, the arrangements and all that stuff. I couldn't do it. And then, well, I'm not going to really elaborate on that. And it's another thing. She was there for me.
Right.
Now, when I was there for her, actually a traumatization type thing was when she got bit by the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that was traumatizing because it was my dog,
mm-hmm.
and I was supposed to take care of the dog. And for that dog to do what the dog did to her, man, it took a lot because I think you was maybe 1, almost 2. Sean was just born. I had to leave you with another family, the Orbos, and I was working, and your mama was in the hospital. Between me going to work and coming to check on y'all and going to check on her, it was rough, man. But we got through it, and it was really like a come together type thing for me, because to see her like that, man, it hurt me to my heart. But I helped her to get through it, because the thing about it was she didn't really know Sean, because she was just born. And then when I would bring her to the hospital, your mama, she would cry because Sean didn't know who she was. And cry. Every time she would hold Sean, she would just bawl and bawl. Even after your mother came home, she thought Sean didn't like her. And that was something I had to instill in her. Baby, just gonna take some time. You just have to hold her and talk to her and work with her, because Sean didn't want nobody but me. But after a while, they became close. That was a really traumatizing time in my life right there. Yeah, and it took both of us to get through it, because most people would have left. And then there's another thing too. I'm not trying to hog the show or anything, but
go ahead.
When your mother was diagnosed with MS, I mean, it took me a while to really grasp the concept of her health failing. You know what I'm saying? Because I was still expecting her to do her daily routine and stuff like that. I come home from work, I expect food on the table, but some days she was so out of it, she couldn't do it.
Right.
But then as the years went on, I saw what she was going through, and to be honest with you, I could have kept working, but she was one of the reasons that I stopped working. I needed to be home with my wife.
Right. The marriage vow says for
better or for worse,
through sickness and in
health.
I just heard a pod. I was watching a TD Jakes thing yesterday actually, and his wife was talking to the congregation, and she said that those vows are there because they're meant not to be broken.
Right.
They're hard to break.
Yeah.
The generation, and what she was saying is that the generation who make up their own vows, they do that because they're easy to break. Hey, since the first day I saw you, I knew you were the one, and this, that, and the other. And then the other person would say their vows to them, and they never say the vows that are meant to be said.
That written in the Bible.
Because they're hard to break those vows. Those other vows that you say yourself, those are easily breakable.
Yeah.
But if you hold true to those vows that you're saying to your spouse through sickness and health, through better or worse and all of that stuff, that means something. It's supposed to mean something.
It's supposed to mean something.
Yeah, you're making a covenant with that person and the God that I'm going to be there for this person.
Right.
You're my responsibility.
Exactly. Through sickness or through health.
Exactly.
Just because that person didn't get sick because they wanted to get sick. I mean, something happened. It happened to be sick. Now you going to forsaken that person,
right?
Just because they ain't the same person they used to be,
right?
That's still your spouse,
right?
You're still supposed to take care of them. I know a lot of people when they fall through ill times like that, when one another gets sick, they quick to throw them in a home or something, or just
leave,
dissolve the marriage. Exactly. A lot of people tell me they admire me because I, did what I did, and I don't like the accolades. I don't, man. Like you said with the vows, I honor those vows, and I feel like this is something I'm supposed to do.
You're supposed to. Exactly. You are.
And that's the way I feel about it.
If you are a Christian, then you're taking these things serious, then that's what you're supposed to do.
That's right.
And now it is our duty to pass along these things that we've learned to other people, to let them know that this is what you're supposed to do.
And to your kids.
Everything, yeah, everybody.
Yeah,
Everybody.
That,
Not even just kids. I'm talking about my circle of friends and everything too.
And that's part of your legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. It ain't just your legacy ain't just for your family.
No,
it's for whoever knows you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, whoever that came into your life. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. I think and going back to that thing right there, like I don't think that any interaction that I am in is by chance. If I meet you for any reason at all, we met for a purpose.
Exactly.
Now, what that purpose is, I don't know, but you know, we definitely met for a reason.
Right, God knows.
Yeah,
you might not see it now, but you'll see it later on down the road.
So, yeah, I definitely appreciate you for sharing the information that you shared regarding trauma and everything that we've talked about. Is there anything else that you want to talk about in regards to the trauma question?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, in that case, I think we're going to open up the conversation for open discussion. Thank you for answering those 3 questions.
No problem.
And so if there's any questions that you want to ask me or anything else you want to talk about, now would be the time for me to open up the table for you.
I mean, I feel like I can talk to you anytime because you're my son. I don't need no podcast.
That is true.
But now, to be honest with you, I can't think of nothing right off the top of my head right now.
Okay.
Other than you want to borrow my truck.
But I appreciate it already in advance because I know that you're going to oblige me with that blessing there, sir.
Yeah. I didn't know this was a setup.
Nah. So, I think that, we've talked for a minute. We've talked through 3 questions, and I definitely appreciate you for giving your perspective on all those 3 questions. And I think we had good dialogue back and forth, which we always do, even off the podcast.
Right.
And we are hopefully that my hope is and goal is to help someone else who may be watching this or listening to this podcast. Because
I hope so as well, because especially the younger generation.
Absolutely, but even the older generation, because it's still some people who may be married right now who may be like, "Hey, I'm finna walk out this door because my wife is sick or my husband is sick."
Exactly.
And I don't know the true meaning behind for sickness and health.
The thing about, like I said, marriage is a hard job. The easy part is giving up.
It is.
Yeah.
It very, very much so is. I can definitely attest to that. Whenever, when I was going through some down times, and I've reached out to you and basically just hang in there, have communication and dialogue, because it may be a misunderstanding.
Right.
It very well may be. And again, going back to what I was talking about earlier about my expectations going into marriage, I went in there with the wrong expectations.
I can attest to that because I did the same thing. When we was young, I was because I used to see my mother doing certain stuff that I'd expect my wife to do, but she wasn't doing those things, and that's why we used to fall out all the time. And you know what your mama told me? Well, go live with your mama then.
Yeah. And this they always have them quick comebacks.
Yeah, they do. But it's a comeback that make you think. And then I like, maybe I am going out this the wrong way. Everybody's different, because ain't no way in the world she could. I mean, she probably could, but that wasn't her. And I had to see her for who she was, not who I wanted her to be through looking at my mother. You know what I'm saying? Because they're 2 different people.
Right.
Everybody ain't the same. Right. Quite naturally, she ain't going to be like my mother, but I was trying to make her to be like my mother, because I saw what my mother was doing as a mother for her kids, and I didn't think she was doing that to my aspect, which was wrong for me to compare that.
Yep. So that's what you learned about yourself.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I really did.
Yeah.
Don't compare.
Don't compare.
Nah.
Yeah. You'll fail every time.
You got that right.
You're flat on your face.
That's right. You'd be looking at your face on the ground.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for jumping on this podcast with me.
No problem.
It was a pleasure to have you have this conversation on camera.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And on video. I mean, in audio. Normally, I would ask, is there anything else that you wanted to share with everybody in regards to a Facebook, Instagram, or anything that you got going on? But I know for a fact that you don't.
No, I'm not a social person.
No, you're very social, just not on social media.
I try to stay away from social media.
So we'll skip that, and I'll just promote the Men in Marriage podcast. So you can like and subscribe us on YouTube, and hopefully that you can comment on what you like and what you don't like about what the discussion that we're just having, or maybe even come up with some different questions that we may be able to ask in the future. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. This is Lamar Dixon with my father, Charles Dixon. This is Men in Marriage, episode number 2, season number 3. Until next time.